I am so darn proud of all of you. Last year at this time, I think we were all in a little bit of a panic mode. Our annual gathering planning committee had to shift gears on a dime, throw out months of planning, and do a quick deep dive into the inner workings of Zoom webinars. And they did an amazing job. I'm still not sure how 2020 moderator Megan Owens held it all together, trying to conduct a business while assisting with an emergency resolution that was being written during the meeting, all the while hosting the webinar. But somehow she pulled it off marvelously. For the full year since the conference, our local churches and all of you have been following in Megan's footsteps. You've displayed amazing adaptability, creative thinking, and innovative leadership. Churches, pastors, youth leaders, camp directors, musicians, and frontline volunteers have figured out not only how to do church, but how to be church in the midst of a global pandemic and one that has kept us physically apart. 15 months ago, we couldn't fathom how a search committee would complete its process with a candidate and a church call a settled pastor without a traditional neutral pulpit or candidating weekend. But you know what? 7 of our churches have done exactly that. 15 months ago, who would have thought that there could be a robust summer camp experience without campers and counselors physically being at Pilgrim Pines? But our outdoor ministries team showed us how it's done. Camp in a box. This year, there will be safe in-person camp experiences, and I'm sure that the OMT group team will tell you all about it. They'll give a report later this morning. 15 months ago, we probably would have chuckled in disbelief if someone had told us that within just a few months, 90-plus-year-old seniors in our congregations would be proficient on Zoom. And now we know that many of them are. You've run confirmation programs and food banks. You made face masks for frontline workers. You figured out how to do physically distanced pastoral care. You took to the streets to proclaim that Black Lives Matter, to protest police violence against brown and Black-skinned people, to stand in support with trans women and men, and you marched to denounce Asian American violence. You kept on being the church. We learned a lot this year, and how we do church will forever be changed. We've seen how we can be the church without ever entering the church building. And while we're eager to get back together, this experience may prompt new conversations about the buildings that we own and how well they are suited to doing ministry in the 21st century. We've learned that we have a much larger outreach than we realized. Former members, new members, and friends have been tuning into our worship services from across the United States. People who haven't been able to come to church maybe for years because of transportation needs or job schedules or mobility issues have been reunited with their church families. We've learned that we can have greater participation in church leadership and decision-making when no one has to drive for 45 minutes or skip supper or get a babysitter to be able to have a voice on church council. And you did all of this from homes that were too crowded or too empty, craving a moment of peace and quiet or adult conversation or a hug or just dinner with friends. And you did all of this while mourning the devastating loss of life that COVID brought. I'm going to give a very special acknowledgement to the hospital chaplains in our midst today. Thank you for doing the impossible. Countless numbers of families will remember your kindnesses and your words for the rest of their lives. I'm proud of you all and the work that you've done. I'm grateful to you and for you and your ministries. In the rush to figure out hybrid worship and get back into the sanctuary, I encourage each of you to take care of yourselves and take care of one another. Get the rest that you need. Remember to say thank you to your pastors and be sure that they're taking time for self-care. In late January, when Felix's leave of absence started, I was asked by Sarah, the chair of the board, to help out with some of the tasks and decision-making that fall to the conference minister. We thought it would be 6 to 8 weeks, so I agreed to come in half-time role. With Felix's retirement, however, I've agreed to up my commitment to 3/4 time. Additionally, the Reverend Chris Bergstrom, who was hired last November as a half-time associate conference minister, has also agreed to a 3/4 time position for the remainder of her current contract with us, which runs through November of this year. Chris's responsibilities include working with local churches, search and call, and committees on ministry in the Central and Northern associations. She's chair of the Conference Ethics Committee, and because of her extensive and unique experience with organizational leadership, she also acts as an advisor to board process. Lately, Chris has had a special focus on organizing resources and information about reopening our churches and the needs related to hybrid worship. Our other conference minister, the Reverend Rudy von Grun, continues in a half-time position and is also still the pastor of First Congregational Church in Glendale. Rudy's responsibilities for the conference are essentially the same as they have been. He's staff liaison for the annual gathering planning team. He leads our boundary awareness training program. He's the liaison for youth and young adult ministers and OMT. Rudy also works with churches, search and call, and church and ministry in the Southern Association. Lately, Rudy has started a virtual group with pastors who are new to the conference since early 2020 and haven't had in-person opportunities to get to know how our conference operates. Rudy also still continues the weekly conversations on race, Wednesdays at 1 p.m., that are an outgrowth of the resolution that you passed last year. Now, if this seems like a lot of responsibilities for part-time positions, you're right, it is. We have a very hardworking and dedicated staff, pastors and administrators, and we're very lucky to have them on our staff. In January, we hired Dr. Mary Traylor to be our youth and young adult program coordinator. Throughout the spring, she's been organizing and strengthening the youth and young adult leadership and volunteer groups. You'll see Mary in the Outdoor Ministries report in just a little bit. Mary also put together a monthly virtual gathering for educators as a space to share resources, ideas, and best practices in the midst of COVID restrictions. And of course, throughout this hard year, it's Virginia Arroyo and Stella Perez with their unflappability, institutional memory, and ability to do magic that really holds us all together. The work of the conference, just like the work of the church, continues. We know that our primary purpose is to serve and strengthen our local churches and our clergy. We've got some more changes ahead of us, but we're up for the task. We covet your prayers, and we thank you for your generous support.